Alright, I'm ready for the review. What do we have on the table today for us? Nothing. But something does smell a little iffy. It's this. Phyllis. No. They sound... they don't sound like anything. They smell fine. So... oh... well, that smells a little iffy. Puns intended, suckers. Ifi ZenCan Signature. Take the headphones off my head. No, not those ones. The other ones. Yes. The not 6XXs. That makes sense, right? Hear me out for a second, alright? I know I spent extra money on these, but I think it's a better pairing. Honestly. Hold on, let me do a little magic trick. The ride never ends, boys. Never ends. So I want to talk about the Ifi ZenCan Signature 6XX balanced headphone amp and preamp amplifier from Ifi. Quality. This thing comes with a little Ifi iPower, which I am going to scoot out and under my desk to show you because it's currently hooked into my main system. Under the desk we go. So this is the Ifi iPower low noise thing, whatever you want to call it. Freaking wall wart. Big old fat connection. iPower X glows. Can be annoying at night. Plugs in, whatever. It's white cable. What more can you say about a power supply? It's the lowest noise to power ratio or something, blah blah blah. Marketing. It plugs into the back and provides power for the ZenCan Signature 6XX. This thing has 3 inputs. You see that on the front. 1, 2, 3. Balanced 4.4 pentagon input. This is for the Zen DAC, if you're willing enough to buy that as well. The DAC has a balanced output, which feeds into this, which gives you more power out the front. You have a single-ended input, 3.5mm input, next to RCAs. Input 1, input 2, input 3. This thing also comes with a RCA wire for connecting to your DAC. Balanced output right here for 200 ohms, or at 200 ohms. More output impedance for speakers and stuff like that. You have your power in on the left of the unit. 5 volt, 12, I don't know, whatever, 5 volt. Power button on the front, 3 inputs. Power match goes from 0 decibels to 18 decibels. This thing can power pretty much anything. It's like 12 or 16 volts or something crazy like that. You have a volume knob. Pretty sure it's plastic. Looks plastic. Probably is plastic. You have your 1/4 inch. It comes with this little adapter, 1/4 to 3.5. Has balanced 4.4 pentagon on the front output, and it has your settings button, your 6XX and X space, and then on the normal ZenCan, I mean, you have bass, X bass, and X space. So now they say that Drop came in with their own little analog circuit EQ preset for the Sennheisers, but I'm pretty sure they're most likely the same, knowing Drop, and they're just taking something, painting it, selling it for more, and then Ifi seemed to have like sold the unit itself. I don't know what's really going on, so I'm pretty sure they aren't that different. But this is what I have, and I don't have the other one. And I don't have the 6XX, but I did. The 6XX was my first love, first intro to the madness that Zeus has put me in. Thank you for wasting my money. Take my wallet again, right? Anyway, I had the 6XX and I started growing my collection. I had the 880s come in, the Focal Elex, and the T60 Argons. And every time I upgraded, I put the 6XX on the back of the shelf. Then it got to the point where I stopped using it. And if you're not using it, then what's the point of keeping it? So I sold my 6XX. I did try it on this first before I sold it. And that was probably the mistake that I did, but live and learn. When I plugged it into here and pushed the buttons, I didn't like it at first because I'm one of those guys that doesn't like EQ and wherever. Just one of those guys. I don't like things messing with the natural sound of how the headphone's supposed to sound, right? So this was very weird for me at first. It took some time for me to get used to since this first came out, which was probably, I don't know, 4 to 6 months ago, something along those lines. And I'm just now starting to really like this thing. Really starting to love it. On these. The 6XX, I plugged it in, turned on the buttons, and it seems like Ifi is trying to market this to, well, obviously the 6XX owners. But not only that, I feel like they're trying to market it to mainstream users. So you have your trap and your rap type music with the big old bass sounds, noises, yada yada. Not us audiophiles, right? With our classical music and soundstage depth and all that stuff that we say, totally. So the 6XX automatically has a bass boost over the 600s, more mid-range, more bass built into the headphone. And when I plugged it into here and I turned on X bass or the 6XX mode and X bass, it seemed like it was distorting the bass by shoving it up too much. It was too much bass for me personally. Coming from the T60s, it seemed like too much for the drivers to handle on the 6XX. So I didn't like them. So I sold the 6XX because I wanted to move on to other things. I got the T60s at that point. I got some other DTs. I was just hobbying, testing other headphones out. So it wasn't until now, basically, a few weeks ago, that I got the 600s. And I plugged them into this, turned on everything, and man, the soundstage instantly goes from those 3 bubbles, that freaking Venn diagram looking thing, sounding thing, and it separates them. Amazing soundstage and imaging with X bass. Turn on that 6XX mode with it. It really completes these headphones, I feel. Personally, I feel like it completes the 600s. So if you're on like a budget, let's say you get the standard model of this. It doesn't have to be this, like I said. I'm pretty sure it's the same freaking thing. If not, then it's just a little bit different, but still enough. It's $130, and then you have the Drop 6XX, which you can probably grab on eBay or something for $170. Used ones. You can get on Drop the new pads and stuff, or you can just buy a new one with your $10 coupon, get 210, or wait for the deal for $200 on the 6XX. And with that, you have a whole setup. You know, you wake up the one day and you're like, oh man, I want to listen to rap. So you turn on the X bass boost, the bass boost button. And then there you go, you have bass. Maybe you want some extra space. Maybe you don't want that bass necessarily, but you want that soundstage. you go into X bass. Maybe you want both. And the combination is perfect on this. Combination is what I feel makes it good. But not all the time. Not all the time. Sometimes it's just the 6XX mode. Now you're thinking, oh, what about other headphones? Not just Sennheiser. Well, it depends. It really depends. If you take the 880s, which have that bass and that mid bass already, it's gonna bloat it. It's gonna be like the 6XX in my opinion. Same with the Fostex. It's gonna be too much bass, and sometimes when you put on the X bass, it just, when you have a headphone with that much soundstage already, it kind of just gets rid of it. The Focal Helix sounds alright with this. Nice, it gets a little bit punchier. Soundstage gets a little bit wider. But what I really like in the planar field is the M1060. Not the C's, it's the standard M1060. Did my terrible job of modifying it. Dual phasered. Before I had just the paper towel mod on the grills, and that was my introduction of what I really enjoy in audio land, our little cupcakes and rainbows audio land that we all live in, whilst hating everyone else's opinion. Soundstage and imaging. The soundstage and then the placement of the instruments inside is what really gets me. And the bass is sometimes interesting, but I don't like closebacks, so that's where this thing comes in. You take something like the M1060, open back, has a pretty flat response, a little peaky on the treble end. Push that 6XX button, get a little extra bass out of it. So bass punches hard, really nice and enjoyable. You press the X bass button, and it kind of gives you that soundstage and imaging with the foam on the back of the headphone. Now I spent some time with these, modifying them, a lot of time, and a big story behind these headphones themselves in the first place. That they've really grown on me. But I'm not here talking about these. So this will sometimes give and take on different headphones. It doesn't work on every headphone. Like the T60s it doesn't work on, and I'm sure there's plenty of other headphones that don't work on these very well. It's Class A, so it's going to sound different than your normal THX amplifier. And it's going to be a little bit creamier, a little bit colorful. Definitely going to be colorful because it's that distortion of Class A. It's different than solid state, and it's different than tube and tube hybrids. It's its own little thing. And honestly, I think it's worth it. If you have the 6 Hungoes or the 6XXs, it's definitely something. If you have the money, you can go with this version. It looks better, but honestly, I'm sure the normal ZenCan is the exact same as this. But don't quote me on it, because I don't know for sure. But I definitely think these two headphones are a perfect pairing. And then if you're willing to expand, and if you have the money to expand on it, then you can go with the 1060s, play with those a little bit. Then you can get into something like the Focal, but at that point, you're probably looking at other stuff like the iPower or a bunch of other amps, a dark voice instead of a hybrid, and tubes on these instead of this, you know. And you start moving on. But at a budget standpoint, the ZenCan and the 6XX is definitely a good bargain, I feel. That pretty much concludes this. All I have to talk about. Definitely think this is worth it, and I don't regret buying it anymore now that I've come to grips on who she is as a person or amplifier. Yeah, that's my thoughts and feelings on this Ifi ZenCan Signature. Definitely think it's worthwhile if you have the time and the money to play around with it. It's different from THX, and it's different from tubes. Even though it's a tube hybrid, give and take, whatever you want to believe, it's subjective. But I think this is worth it if you don't like to go into your computer and EQ stuff by yourself. It's definitely super convenient, and it fits in my daily setup. So that concludes that. Oops. Well, they're broken. Game over. I give up. Bye.